Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something clicked.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Okay. Let's start wherever you like.
Yeah, so I guess there's a researcher part of me that, or a learner part, or high input part, whatever you want to call it. I really when something clicks, it clicks, and I'm I want to learn everything about this now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of doing Enneagram stuff, and I'm a 7. That's what I am on there. I think a 7 with the 8 wing. I don't really know too much about the wing stuff, but
okay. I have zero familiarity with it, so
yeah. So I'll kind of that. My explainer part is happy to hear that because it's I get to explain. But yeah, so it's basically a 7. It gets labeled as an enthusiastic type a lot, very much an adventurous type, an enthusiastic type. And the cool thing about the Enneagram is it really kind of breaks down, I've been reading a lot, each type has a certain passion, which not passion as in something you love type thing, but more so something that tends to get you in a grip, tends to kind of, you go overboard with it. And so for 7s, it's gluttony. It's they're the type that is very overindulgent in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And that overindulgent comes in the form of always chasing joy. It's the type that gets described as being, which is just something a part of me really vibes with. Just it's my job to be happy, and it's my job to make other people happy. And I do that by always being that guy that is, I'm good, I'm happy. And then the Enneagram it gets explained as ways that we figure out in childhood to survive, basically. So it's that you went to these ways because it was a way to compensate for something as a child. And so for 7s, it gets described, I've seen it described a lot as you had an absence of nurturing in a way. And so it's you dealt with that by becoming very self-sufficient in your own happiness. You didn't have anybody to rate. You didn't, or maybe not anybody, because I wouldn't say I didn't have anybody. but it's like you didn't have enough regulation for that to be provided by your caretakers. And so a part of you figured out, okay, I have to do this myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm happy. Nothing is ever wrong with me. And when I think about that, there's a part of me that like rejects it right away because I'm like, what? I didn't get enough nurturing? That's not true. Like, my mom is super loving type. I mean, there's not a conversation that I can end with my mom without saying I love you. Like, I was very close to my grandparents, all that kind of stuff. So a part of me starts coming up with defense mechanisms right away of like why that isn't accurate.
Sure. Yeah, and I just want to point out the polar nature of that question, like that there's a yes or no answer to whether or not you got, quote, enough nurturing. And that to me already just, it sounds like a parts dynamic in that, it's a very kind of two-dimensional look at it. One saying yes, one saying no, when, we're talking about 20 years of your life, over day after day, and how people showed up in it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because when you say that, I kind of feel the part that definitely feels like that the part that's on that no side is like, okay, what about the fact that you've always had trouble making friends with guys? There's a part of me, that part of me is like, you can't get it off your mind that August 17th of this year is going to be the 10th anniversary of your grandfather passing away. Like, if you think about it too long, you start crying. And you literally wrote down the other day how he was the only man who ever really understood you. And so it's like, obviously, there's something there from a male bonding standpoint. And then the part of me that's on that yes side is still kind of, but wait, what about this? What about, like, it is a back and forth. Yeah, so I think what I want to do, the part that is kind of pointing out all the buts, that you did have this.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask it to step into another room.
Okay.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so that you can get to know the one that has concerns or has grievances.
Yeah, because it's not just the male bonding, because that's there. That's like the elephant in the room. But then there's like the stuff that it feels uncomfortable for me to talk about, like, because that part, when it starts to point out, what about your issues with your mom? That's uncomfortable.
Sure.
And there is, yeah.
So did it respond? I was just going to ask if that part responded to you asking it to step aside.
It did. It went into the room pretty readily.
The
part that's on that no side of that polarization. When I ask it, what else does it feel like I didn't get enough of as a kid? Male bonding comes up. The the feelings of always being misunderstood by everybody comes up. Like nobody really gets me. Feeling like I was just like an outcast in a lot of ways. And then there's a lot of confusion that comes up because a girl I was talking to the other day asked me, like, what were you like as a kid? I just asked her to guess, and the guess is that I was like this popular kid because of how I am. And I get it. Like people see this like guy who has a lot of charm, who is very talkative, has a lot of energy. It's like, well, the energy was there, but I don't know. A part of me feels like I have to keep that persona up.
Sure. Okay, so this part's showing you these different outcomes or experiences that felt like it wasn't enough. Something wasn't enough for it, or it wasn't feeling connected, or
yeah. The easiest way I can describe it is it's almost like a story, like just different chapters. Because like right now it might sound like I have a lot of clarity on it, but really this is not stuff that I think about in my life. But it's like there are connections to the persona that I create.
Yeah. So just stay with the listening with that part. See what else it has to show you. Asking it what else it wants you to know.
Part of me feels very empty. There's a feeling of emptiness inside my torso, in the middle. Not like my sternum, but low, I guess my belly. Which is weird because I just ate.
And does it feel like it's coming from this part, or is this part pointing towards it as, something that it's protecting you from, for example? I don't know if that question made any sense. I can ask it another way if it didn't.
That part, I'm not supposed to feel the emptiness.
Right. And how do you respond when you hear that coming from this part, or when you see that? What's your kind of emotional response, or response to this part?
Why I'm not supposed to feel that emptiness? But when I ask why, the answer I get is more of a what, I guess. Because it's like, well, that emptiness. Boredom is the word I want to say.
Boredom?
Yeah. Just part of me is constantly worried about this emptiness. A part of me knows when I'm bored, when I'm unsatisfied, when I'm not happy.
Yeah.
That emptiness can feel overwhelming. So I have to feel, I don't really feel the emptiness with anything. That part of me, I have distracting parts.
Sure. And how does this part feel about you, like working with the part that feels empty? Does it trust you to do that?
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, there's a part of me that is making me, there's a part of me that's just like, God, I wish I could just, I miss smoking weed.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
There's a part of me, there's a part of me that really just wishes I could smoke weed.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped doing that a while ago this year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe it would be good to ask this part kind of when it's thinking about the upside to smoking weed, like what is the upside? What is the positive feeling that it's wanting to get to?
Gets me back to feeling like I'm good.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, I'm good. Everything's all right. I can be normal, happy, carefree Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Part of me that is on the no part of that polarization we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It just, in those chapters I was talking about it, that part of me just reminded me of when I was a kid, how I had this habit of constantly going to the refrigerator. And I would just open it and look inside. Most of the time I wouldn't get anything. And I would just like do it as like an OCD habit almost.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and my grandparents, okay, yo, that's like the same. Ain't nothing changed in that refrigerator in the last hour.
Sure.
The only thing I would grab is if there was like a soda or grapefruit juice. I freaking love grapefruit juice. I don't let myself buy grapefruit juice because if I buy a 64 ounce of Ocean Spray 100% grapefruit juice, I will drink all of it in a night.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And a
good
part of
stuff.
me is reminding me that that's like that was one of my first addictions.
Uh-huh.
I guess addictions are a good way to avoid feelings of emptiness.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I was wanting to ask earlier, was kind of like, what is it about the weed smoking or drinking tons of juice or whatever? Like, what is that feeling that it provides, and what would it take, or what does this part need, or can this part even imagine that being provided by you, without whatever substance or um, addiction?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, no, it doesn't feel like I can provide. I just feel like that part of me feels like if it's not a sugary drink, it'll be weed. If it won't be weed, it'll be alcohol. If it can't be that, it'll be sex. There's always something I can find. I need. It's okay. I that part feels very self-conscious right now.
Okay. Are
It's
you
it's
are you able
okay.
to show appreciation for wanting to keep you from feeling that emptiness?
Yeah, I want to tell it it's okay because, I mean, as I was saying all that, I guess it's like you don't have to feel self-conscious. Maybe maybe that part is better at its job than some other people's parts, but it's, it's what happens a lot of the times. All those
Yeah,
things are big dopamine hits.
sure.
I
Sure. It
just,
all makes sense. It's nothing abnormal, and the part has a specific intention that you're able to see and connect with. And I mean, it sounds like it all makes sense. And if you can just show the part that, and without the intention to fix it or anything, just show it that it makes sense to you, and even show it appreciation for wanting to keep you feeling good.
yeah, there's a part there that is still annoyed with it though.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part that feels like, well, if you would let him feel bad, maybe he would get somewhere.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I would just not affirming or denying if that's true. I would just ask that part again for space, just so you can stay in the conversation with this part, and you can revisit that other part too. It'll have its time. But staying with this first part, I mean, there's all kinds of ways we could go, but just trying to learn more about what it would rather be doing, or how it likes its job, how it feels about its job.
The way it feels is just that just worries about what would happen. Doesn't- That part just really doesn't want to feel bad. That part wants.
Yeah. And how old does the part think that you are?
I think a preteen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something like
So
that.
go ahead and update it there. And you might also update it on the success you've had in IFS, in all kinds of inner work. and maybe ask what it needs from you in the future.
So it doesn't mind being called a pleasure-seeking part. I actually does. That's what I'm gonna call it. Pleasure-seeking part.
Mm-hmm.
And when I let it know that I was 29, it got excited, and it was a feeling of like, oh, maybe you can show me how to be responsible. But unfortunately, I don't think I really answered from self with that, because right away I felt like, me teach you responsibility. Like, wait, what? Like, that sounds like a lot. So that part
Yeah, I
doesn't really
mean,
feel like I'm ready. Which I can understand.
okay.
It did let me know, though, that there is something inside of that emptiness.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me think of it's the same as that black ball that I've found at the edge of the forest.
Yeah.
It's always darkness with something inside of it, and protectors that keeping me away from that.
And this pleasure seeking part feels a little more optimistic about the idea of you working with that part. I'm not saying we need to do it now or anything. I'm just looking for what its outlook is.
I guess that pleasure seeking part has its own feelings of wanting to grow up almost.
It's interesting. And does it want you to grow up or the system to grow up, or does it want itself to grow up?
It wants itself to grow up.
Okay. And what would that look like if it was, or maybe a better question is kind of like why? What is it? How does it want to be different, and what's behind that? What's behind that desire that it has to be different? As opposed to just it be the pleasure seeking part, and you are still able to lead and respond to it.
I guess it just wants to feel like it's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's why it asked me to teach it responsibility. But I really want
And
that part to know that it's already responsible. I mean, it's protecting something.
right.
And
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, of just the idea of it being what it is is okay. And it doesn't have to be responsible for the emptiness. It doesn't have to be responsible for other parts. It doesn't have to be responsible for the decisions you make in the external world. I mean, it makes sense that it's concerned about those things. But you might just be able to show it what it would look like if it didn't have to take that responsibility and it was able to let you handle that.
The idea of not showing concern sounds like so much.
That's the part saying that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, we're not like invalidating its concerns or saying it's like wrong to be concerned. It's just kind of the idea of letting you shoulder some of those burdens and decision making and responsibility.
The part doesn't feel invalidated. It just, I guess the idea that that part was even concerned to begin with was like a shock to its system.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That part doesn't feel great about itself. It just feels like it doesn't feel great about itself.
And how do you feel about it?
I want to give it a hug.
There you go. Maybe you could return to that kind of question of what's next. What does this part need from you in the future?
needs more time, less judgment. It needs appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Guess I do beat myself up for how fun-loving I am.
Yeah, and then you also have, you have this other part that's judging it, that's critical of it, that's saying you're fine, you know, or it's wrong to be that way or whatever. And so that's something else that you can offer to this part is like you can work with that other part. You can, if you want, you could do that now. You could kind of invite that part to see what you're up to see if it's how it feels about you working with this pleasure seeking part in this way.
There's a part that feels like, what's the point of life if you're not having fun?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that part feels like the pleasure seeking part should just stop being lazy. That part feels like we can get more out of it. That part doesn't realize that all the pleasure seeking part is going to do is turn my addiction
Mm.
because it's being driven too much.
Right. Yeah. So that's the part that you would invite to see your work, to see how you're able to connect with the pleasure seeking part, which takes time and it takes learning about it and building that relationship. And then it's just a different way of working with it. And you're not just handing it the keys, you're learning about the deeper wants, the deeper intentions, and you're showing it appreciation so that it doesn't have to, it's not in this fight for your attention or with these other parts.
That part made my face turn into a scowl.
Oh, I'm curious how'd that come about?
That part just sees laziness, weakness, incompetence.
Yeah.
All it hears is excuses.
Yeah. Well, I would suggest that you find the time to work with that part in the same way. Just let it have its hour or however long it takes for you to go to that same place and understand it.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. That part really, yeah, just for those few moments, I felt so much judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess I will have to sit with that part at some point because
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what the judgment.
It feels automatic.
Make me a better person, but
yeah, they all have good intentions, and these protected parts are also they're protecting something. There's an exile in there. It sounds like you've already done a lot to identify it, and you can get to it and help it out so that they don't have to work so hard.
I have my rationalizing and explaining parts just kind of came back online.
Mm-hmm.
Just put in my head, you're supposed to be a 7 with an 8 wing on that Enneagram thing. And 8s are a powerful type. Phrase to describe them is like a "this will never happen to me again" type from their childhood. And
Yeah.
in my mind, I really do think of Enneagram types as just different parts. It's like, oh, dude, you probably just have some of those traits really working, polarization.
Right. Yeah.
So much fun loving and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The
You
part
got
that
it.
feels like it needs to put some law and order into this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You got it all.
And then I just had a part that was absolutely disgusted by that. Law, order. I don't know. I have parts that feel like nobody's going to control me, not even me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
What a funny thought.
I'm kind of watching the clock. I'm guessing you have a hard out. You got to go back to work here pretty soon.
Yeah, I have enough time to say bye to these parts.
Yeah. Yeah, especially that one that shared so much. Just thank it and try to figure out when and how you can get back to them. Keep doing this.
Yeah. It's like every time I do this, the list of parts to say thank you to and goodbye to gets longer, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is what it is, and you can either get to know them or not. It's kind of our only option. Okay. Well, how do we do? Do you have any feedback for me or requests of or suggestions of how we might go in the future?
Wouldn't say any suggestions are coming to me right now. It was a good session.
I thought so. Hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah. I would say it was a good session. I saw that you posted my first call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of me feels like I need to go back and listen to that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I rarely go back and listen to entire conversations, but I'm finding myself finally doing that more and more. So seem like after I have a couple months of distance that I'm able to appreciate them in another way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's no better way to access a trailhead than to literally go to an IFS, a previous session.
Yeah.
But all right.
Cool. I
Thanks,
hope I get to
James.
talk to you again soon.
I'm sure we will. You have a good
All
one.
right. You too. Take care.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.